Rain poured heavily on the windshield as Claire, a Nigerian woman job hunting, drove further into the deep forest. Her GPS had stopped working over an hour ago, and there was no mobile network signal. The only light came from her car's headlights, which struggled to shine through the thick fog. Twisting roads stretched ahead of her, lined with old, bent trees that seemed to lean in, watching her silently like they were alive. She began to regret taking the job. It had seemed simple when she first heard about it over the phone. A quiet weekend caretaking position at an old, abandoned lodge in Ajah. Sounded peaceful, even relaxing. But now, with darkness all around her and the thick forest closing in, everything felt wrong. She started to feel afraid. As she turned around one last bend, the lodge came into view. It was called Black Hollow Lodge. The building was large and eerie, rising up like a ghost at the edge of the forest. It looked old and forgotten, covered in green moss and patches of rot. Built in a Victorian style, it had sharp corners and pointed towers, like something from a horror story. It almost looked like it had grown straight out of the ground. Alive, ancient, and full of secrets. Claire had the strange feeling that the house had seen too much, and remembered it all. She parked her car near a broken-down fountain, grabbed her bag, and slowly walked up to the giant wooden doors. When she pushed them, they creaked open with a loud, slow groan. They weren't locked, just like the caretaker agency had told her. Inside, the air was much colder than outside. It smelled old and damp, full of dust, mold, and something else she couldn't quite place. Something sharp and metallic, almost like blood. She turned on her flashlight. The beam lit up tiny particles of dust floating in the air. Old portraits hung on the walls, paintings of serious-looking men and women, none of them smiling. As she walked past them, it felt like their eyes were following her. Suddenly, the wind howled outside, and the door slammed shut behind her with a loud bang. Claire jumped in fear. "Just the wind," she said softly to herself. "Old buildings do that." Trying to calm herself, she walked into what seemed like the main hall. There, on the front desk, she found a dusty caretaker's journal. Curious, she opened it and flipped to the last page. The final entry was dated June 12, 1994. It said, "Something in the walls. Scratching again last night. I sealed the basement door. God forgive me if it wasn't enough." Claire stared at the page, her heart beginning to beat faster. Below the writing, in shaky, uneven handwriting, there was one more line. "If it comes to the door, don't let it in." She swallowed hard. What was this place? Claire chose a bedroom on the second floor. It looked out over the dead garden and the woods beyond. The air inside the house felt heavy and cold, almost like the building was holding its breath. She unpacked her things quickly. She tried not to notice how the wardrobe door kept swinging open, no matter how many times she closed it. As the sky grew dark, the wind outside got stronger, carried strange sounds with it. The sounds weren't animals, but they didn't sound human either. Claire pulled the thick curtains shut and got into bed, hoping she could sleep. At exactly 2:13 in the morning, she woke up. She had heard a sound. Knocking. 3 slow, loud knocks on the front door. Claire sat up in bed, her heart pounding fast. Who would be at the door at this time of night? Maybe it was another caretaker, or maybe a lost hiker who needed help. She got out of bed and grabbed her flashlight. Slowly, she walked down the stairs. Then the knocking came again. 3 knocks. Then silence. She reached the front door but didn't open it. Something inside her told her not to. Felt wrong. Instead, she called out through the door. "Hello? Do you need help?" No answer. Then she heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. Louder this time. Heavier. Like someone was standing very close, maybe even pressing their face against the door. Claire stepped back. Her eyes landed on the caretaker's journal that was still lying open on the desk. "If it comes to the door, don't let it in." She took another step back. The knocking stopped. Silence. Then a voice spoke. It was quiet and muffled, but she could still hear it clearly. "Please, I'm cold." Claire froze. The voice wasn't just familiar. It was hers, her exact voice, saying the same words again. "Please, I'm cold." Claire didn't sleep at all that night. She stayed curled in a tight ball in the corner of the upstairs hall. The caretaker's journal clutched to her chest like a lifeline. Her fingers trembled around the small, metal flashlight, its beam flickering now and then like a heartbeat about to fail. The air around her felt too still, too heavy. Every creak in the old wooden floor, every groan of the settling beams, made her flinch. The voice, the one that had been murmuring outside the front door since midnight, had finally gone silent around 3. But the silence it left behind wasn't comforting. It was worse. It was like the house was holding its breath. Something was still out there. She could feel it just beyond the threshold of the lodge. Watching, waiting, as if the entire forest had eyes, and they were all pointed at her. It wasn't just fear she felt. It was anticipation, as if whatever it was waiting for her to make a wrong move. By morning, the fog had grown denser. It pressed up against the windows like something alive, pale and shifting, turning the world outside into a blank, endless void. Claire tried her phone again, holding it above her head, even stepping near the window. Still nothing. No bars. No connection. It was as if the world outside had been erased. She told herself it was just a storm, just bad weather, maybe some down cell towers. But the part of her that had read the journal last night, the part that had seen the caretaker's handwriting grow more frantic with each page, knew better. Around noon, Claire forced herself to check on her car. Maybe she could leave. Even if she had to drive through the fog blindly, it would be better than staying another night. But the moment she opened the driver's door, a wave of damp, rotting air hit her. The seats were soaked. Not just damp, but saturated, as if someone had dumped buckets of water inside. Moss clung to the dashboard, and something dark and spongy was spreading up from the floor mats. She recoiled, gagging, and slammed the door shut. Whatever this was, it wasn't natural. Back inside the lodge, Claire decided she'd wait it out. Just 2 more nights. She could avoid the front door. She could stay quiet. She just needed to keep her mind busy. Stay focused. The moment she let her guard down, she knew it would be over. She began to explore, flashlight in one hand, an old iron fire poker in the other. Its weight grounded her, though she doubted it would do much against whatever was out there. The upstairs was larger than she remembered. Hallways twisted in strange ways, like the house had shifted overnight. Some doors led to cramped storage spaces, others to bedrooms frozen in time. Beds neatly made, windows nailed shut, closets empty. Most of the doors were swollen and warped, impossible to open without a crowbar. But one door near the end of the east hallway swung open with ease. Too easily. Inside was a nursery. The wallpaper had peeled in long, curling strips. Faded images of rabbits and moons clung to the walls like ghosts of children's laughter. The crib had been pushed against the far wall, beneath a broken mobile that dangled cracked porcelain stars. Old toys lay scattered across the faded rug. A stuffed bear missing an eye, a wooden train missing its wheels. In the far corner sat a doll, its face pale and cracked. Someone had sewn its mouth shut with thick, black thread, knotted tight. Claire felt her breath catch in her throat. The air in the room was colder than the hallway, noticeably colder. Her flashlight dimmed again, and she smacked it lightly until the beam steadied. That's when she saw the small door in the wall, no taller than 2 feet. A crawl space, maybe once used for storage, or something else. She stepped closer. Then came the sound. Scratching. Faint at first, like something brushing against wood from the other side. Her heart began to pound. The scratching grew more urgent, frantic, like claws on splintered beams. She didn't wait to see more. Claire stumbled back, nearly tripping on the edge of the rug, and slammed the nursery door shut behind her. She jammed an old chair under the handle. That evening, the fog thickened further. It no longer just pressed against the windows. It seemed to seep in around the edges of the glass, leaving dew on the sills. The caretaker's journal lay open on her lap, but Claire wasn't reading anymore. She was listening. The scratching had returned. Not from the nursery, from the walls. First it was soft, almost ignorable, like mice, but then it changed, became heavier, slower, deliberate, nails, not claws, dragging slowly across the old wooden slats. Something was moving behind the walls of the lodge, pacing, waiting, and when it stopped right behind her. Claire tried to block out the noise with her earbuds and some music. She sat on the bed, shining the flashlight at the door, holding the fire poker tightly. Halfway through the second song, she heard it again. A whisper. It was faint, almost impossible to hear beneath the music. But it was there. It was her voice. "Claire, come downstairs." She pulled out her earbuds, and the room went silent. Then, she heard the voice again. This time, from behind the wardrobe. "I'm in here." Claire froze. The wardrobe door started to creak open by itself. It slowly opened wider and wider, but all she could see inside was darkness. Claire screamed, slammed the door shut, and quickly dragged a dresser in front of it. She ran out of the room as fast as she could. That night, she slept in the hallway, wrapped in blankets. She never let go of the fire poker. The next morning, Claire saw something new. The basement door, which had been locked the day before. The boards on the door were pulled away. Nails stuck out like broken teeth. She stood at the top of the stairs, holding a flashlight, looking into the dark. Drip, drip, drip. The sound came from below. The air smelled like mold, rust, and something sweet, like rotting fruit. Claire should have walked away, but she didn't. She went down the stairs instead. The stairs creaked with every step. The air felt thick, and cobwebs touched her face. The light from her flashlight barely helped. At the bottom of the stairs, she found a huge stone room. Old crates and broken furniture were everywhere. But something was wrong with the walls. They seemed to be moving. Not really moving, but they looked like they were breathing, like something behind them was pushing. In the far corner, Claire saw a circle on the floor. It wasn't just drawn, it was carved into the stone. There were strange symbols around it. Bones, maybe a circle. Something had been chained to the floor in the middle. The metal chains were broken. As Claire bent down to look closer, she heard a whisper right next to her ear. "You let it in." She turned quickly. No one was there. When she looked back at the floor, the circle was gone. The stone was smooth again. Frightened, Claire ran up the stairs and slammed the basement door shut. That night, the knocking started again. But this time, it was coming from inside the house. First, it was downstairs. Then, on the walls. Finally, on her bedroom door. Knock, knock, knock. Then a pause. Then she heard her own voice. "Claire, let me in." And then her mom's voice. "Sweetheart, are you okay? Please open the door." Claire cried quietly under the covers until the morning. By the third morning, Claire was unraveling. She hadn't eaten. Her skin was pale and clammy. Her hands trembled constantly. Sleep came in short, terrifying bursts, filled with whispering dreams and the feeling of something crawling beneath her skin. The caretaker's journal was now her Bible. She reread every page dozens of times. She even found older entries hidden in the back. Some in ink, others in red smears that might have been blood. One passage stood out. "It mimics. That's how it gets you. Can't come in unless invited, but it wears your voice, your face. It becomes people you love. It remembers every guest who stayed here. I heard my dead wife laugh behind the walls." Another passage, almost completely illegible, ended with the chilling phrase, "The hollow guest does not knock forever. One day you'll want to let it in." Claire packed her things. She was leaving. Now, she grabbed her car keys, flashlight, fire poker, and made for the front door. It was wide open. Fog poured in through the threshold, thick and gray, swirling unnaturally. Something stood just outside. It looked like Claire. Same hoodie, same face, same wide, frightened eyes. Tilted its head. "I'm you," it said in her voice. "I just want to come in." She slammed the door shut. Footsteps raced across the ceiling above her. Another voice, her own again, screamed from the second floor, "It's in here with me." Then her mother's voice from the kitchen. "Please, Claire. I'm hurt. Help me." Then a child's voice from the nursery. "You forgot me." The house came alive with voices, all clawing at her sanity. She fell to her knees, screaming. And then silence. A knock behind her. Knock, knock, knock. She turned. It was the basement door. Slowly it creaked open. She saw her father. He'd been dead for 10 years. He stood halfway up the stairs, smiling gently, eyes wide and hollow. "Come here, baby girl," he said. "It's okay now." Claire took a step forward. She was holding a fire poker, and it shook in her hand. "You're not real," she said quietly. The man smiled. Then his smile grew wider, so wide it stretched from ear to ear. His jaw dropped open. Inside, his mouth was full of black, needle-like teeth. Something started crawling out from behind him. It didn't have skin. Its body was made of muscles and shadows. It had too many arms and legs, and too many faces were sewn into its body. Dozens of mouths moved at once, all whispering the same words. "Let us in." Claire ran. She didn't stop to grab her things. She didn't go to her car. She ran into the fog, into the woods, down the winding road until her legs gave out. The world spun around her and then went dark. 2 days later, she woke up in a hospital bed. A hiker had found her lying by the road. She was shaking and couldn't speak properly. Claire told the doctors what she remembered. They said it was trauma, that she was stressed and had been alone too long. They said there was no lodge where she said she had gone. They checked the agency she said had hired her. It didn't exist. They told her it was all in her head. But Claire knows what really happened. Because now, every night, she hears someone knock on her apartment door. 3 knocks, then silence, then a voice, her own voice,